Well, I guess we're even, Uncle Edmund, said Caddy, gravely smiling. She held out her small brown hand. Uncle Edmund shook it heartily, but he said, "No, Caddy, we're not even yet. I promised you a silver dollar. You said if I beat you to the end of the lake on the raft, or if I wouldn't tell Mother. But I didn't beat you, and I'm going to tell Mother." "Yes, yes, of course," said Uncle Edmund hastily, "but this dollar is just burning a hole in my pocket, my dear. Here, take it. It belongs to you." Suddenly Caddy felt the weight of the silver dollar in her pocket of her dress. She put her hand in her pocket, and the silver dollar felt warm and round to her fingers. "Thank you, Uncle Edmund," she said. They gathered up the game bag and the gun, and started for home. Their three figures were silhouetted against the sunset, Caddy, Nero, and Uncle Edmund, and their three shadows trailed far out behind them. Uncle Edmund, with a lulled conscience, was whistling, but Caddy's mind was busy with the many, many ways in which one could spin a silver dollar. Chapter 5, Nero Farewell. "Say, I'd take a ducking every day in the week, and twice on Sunday for a silver dollar," remarked Tom enviously. "Caddy, they've got bully in the store at Dunville," added Warren hopefully. Everybody had thought of a splendid way for Caddy to spend her dollar. "You ought to buy yourself some gloves, sister," said Clara. "You've never had proper ones, and your hands look like an Indian's." "Oh, Caddy, get a doll, please do," begged Hetty. "One of those china-headed ones, with pink cheeks and blue eyes, and little china boots with high heels." Little Minnie thought that the dollar should be spent on striped stick candy, and the boys were all for marbles and tops. "Better keep it until Christmas, my child," advised Mrs. Woodlawn. But Mr. Woodlawn said, "Leave the child alone. She has a wise head on her shoulders. She will know how to spend her money wisely when the time comes." Caddy said nothing, but she put her dollar away in a little wooden trinket box which Father had made for her. Her head was full of plans, so many that she could not yet choose among them. It was the evening before Uncle Edmund's departure. A sharp wind blew about the house to remind them that even Indian summer must come to an end at last. Warm and cozy indoors, the Woodlawn family sat about the dining-room table. The supper cloth had been removed with the dishes, and a homespun cloth of red and white had taken its place with the lamp in the middle. The lamp was still rather wonderful to the little Woodlawns. They remembered when Father had first brought it home to replace the candles, and how they had all stood around to see it lighted and hear Father explain its use. Tonight the light of the lamp Mrs. Woodlawn and Clara were darning. Mr. Woodlawn was mending a clock, and Uncle Edmund was cleaning his gun. The younger children sat about his feet near the fire, twisting bits of paper into the lighters which were used whenever possible instead of the precious sulphur matches. Nero lay between Caddy and Uncle Edmund, his head pressed against the Caddy's knees, his eyes opening from time to time to gaze in sleepy adoration at Uncle Edmund. He was completely happy here by the fire, between the two people he loved best. When he heard his name spoken, he raised his head and looked about. Uncle Edmund was saying, "There's one thing I want to ask you, Harriet. It's about Nero. Be a good sister and let me take him back to St. Louis with me." Caddy and Tom sat up straight to listen. They stopped twisting lighters, but they said nothing. They knew very well that when a grown-up asked Mother a question, it was not their business to answer it. Well, maybe if you know about it better than Mother, you should answer the question, no matter how much they were interested. "Why, Edmund," said Mother calmly, "whatever would you do with a sheep-dog in St. Louis? The point is, Nero's too good a dog for sheep. A little training and he'd be a fine bird dog. I know a chap who makes a business of training dogs. Nero would make a splendid hunter, and you could easily get a new sheep-dog. A good sheep-dog requires as much training as a bird dog, Edmund," said Mr. Woodlawn, "and to my mind he serves a worthier purpose." "You have the mind of a farmer rather than a gentleman, John," said Uncle Edmund. "Thank you, Edmund. replied Mr. Woodlawn gravely. "I appreciate that compliment more than you suspect." "Come, come," said Mother. "But surely, Edmund, you are not seriously about taking Nero?" "My heart is set on it, Harriet. You can see yourself how fond he is of me. I'll bring him back next fall, a perfect hunter." "Oh, Uncle Edmund," Caddie couldn't help saying, "you wouldn't take him." "It would be for his own good, Caddie," said Uncle Edmund pompously. "He's a noble animal." Caddie's fingers tightened in the thick wool of Nero's back. How could many times she had felt its comfortable warmth when things had gone wrong and she had needed comforting. "No, Edmund, I am very much opposed to your taking him," said Mrs. Woodlawn. "Now, Harriet, please," wheedled Uncle Edmund. "You're so careless, Edmund. You nearly drowned my child last week. You'd be sure to let something happen to you." "Now, listen, my dear." Uncle Edmund left his gun and came to hang over the back of his sister's chair. "I'll take perfectly good care of him. I'll bring him back with me next fall. You know, Harriet, you never could refuse your little brother anything he wanted." "Dear, dear," said Mrs. Woodlawn, settling her white collar and smoothing her hair, "do let me be. You are worse than a mosquito. Edmund, John, what shall I say to him?" "It is for you and Edmund to decide, Harriet," said Mr. Woodlawn. "Well, then, take him," said Mrs. Woodlawn in an irritated voice, "and take good care of him. I highly disapprove, but you always have your way, brother, sooner or later." "My dear good sister," cried Uncle Edmund. He kissed Mrs. Woodlawn on the tip of her nose and began to do a bit of sailor's hornpipe. Nero sprang up, barking, and the children were so enchanted by this unaccustomed scene that they sprang up, too, laughing and quite forgetting the reason why they were so gay. They understood better the next day when Uncle Edmund went on board the little steamer with Nero beside him on the leash. Nero jumped and barked, not knowing what they meant to do with him. Caddie knelt down beside him, her face pressed against his rough coat. She clung to him a moment before Uncle Edmund let him by. That's page 53, which we'll pick up on next time.